Hey everyone! Welcome back to another episode of English Podcast, where we explore English through entertainment. I'm Emma.
And I'm Jake. Today we're diving into something that's not only fun to watch, but also packed with great expressions to help boost your English. We're talking about Young Sheldon.
That's right! Young Sheldon is a prequel to The Big Bang Theory, focusing on Sheldon Cooper as a child growing up in East Texas. The show blends comedy with some pretty clever dialogue, and if you pay attention, there's a goldmine of idiomatic expressions, sarcasm, and regional phrases.
Let's start by talking a bit about the main characters, so our listeners can get to know the personalities behind the language.
Okay, let's begin with Sheldon himself. Young Sheldon is portrayed as a child prodigy, extremely intelligent, particularly in science and math, but also socially awkward and emotionally distant at times. His way of speaking is formal, direct, and filled with technical or academic words.
Yeah, he often uses very literal language. For example, instead of saying something like "I'm hungry," he might say "my glucose levels are low," or "I require sustenance." That's one of the quirks that makes his dialogue unique and useful for learners who want to expand their vocabulary.
Next up is his mom, Mary Cooper. She's warm, religious, and often the moral compass of the family. She uses a lot of Southern expressions, many of which are idiomatic or colloquial. For instance, she might say, "Lord, give me strength," or "bless your heart," which has a very different meaning depending on tone.
Oh, yeah, "bless your heart" can be sweet or totally sarcastic, depending on the context. That's something non-native speakers often miss, how intonation can change meaning.
Then we have George Cooper Sr., Sheldon's dad. He's a football coach, and his language is often casual, practical, and grounded. You'll hear a lot of expressions like "knock it off," meaning stop it, or "you're pushing your luck," which means someone's taking too many risks.
And Georgie, Sheldon's older brother, uses a lot of teen slang from the late 80s and early 90s. His speech is informal and sometimes full of sarcasm. He might say things like "that's bogus" or "chill out," which were common back then.
Don't forget Mima, Sheldon's grandmother. She's one of my favorite characters. She's feisty, sharp-witted, and uses a lot of idioms, like "the apple doesn't fall far from the tree," meaning children often resemble their parents.
Now that we've got the main characters laid out, let's dig into the expressions. One of the most repeated phrases in the show is when Sheldon says, "I don't care for that." It's such a Sheldon way of saying he dislikes something without being emotionally expressive.
Exactly. That's a very soft, polite way to express disapproval. Instead of saying "I hate it," which is harsh, Sheldon uses "I don't care for that." It's useful if you're in a formal setting and want to disagree politely.
Another one Sheldon uses is "that's highly illogical." You hear it all the time. It's influenced by Star Trek Spock, but it's also a great way to express disagreement based on reasoning rather than emotion.
That's a really smart observation. He also says "I have no intention of engaging in that activity," instead of "I'm not doing that." His phrasing is always precise. Learners can benefit from this because it shows how to replace simple phrases with more sophisticated ones.
And then there's Mima, who uses things like "ain't that the truth?" or "you're not just whistling Dixie." These are Southern expressions that agree with something in a colorful way.
Right, "you're not just whistling Dixie" means you're absolutely right. It's folksy and a bit old-fashioned, but adds charm.
Let's not forget Mary's expression, "if it's meant to be, it'll be." That's something she says when trying to comfort someone. It's based on the belief that fate plays a role in life.
Georgie often says, "You're killing me, man," when he's frustrated. That's a casual way to say, "You're being really difficult."
Oh, and "get a grip" is another one. It means calm down or control yourself, and you hear it more than once from several characters.
Another fun part is the narration. Adult Sheldon narrates the show, and he often uses very formal English. Like, "In hindsight, my actions were ill-advised." That's a great example of reflection and formal vocabulary.
Totally. And that contrast between adult Sheldon's narration and young Sheldon's interactions shows how language matures over time.
Another interesting thing about young Sheldon is how it blends scientific terms with everyday language. You'll often catch Sheldon using phrases like statistically speaking or based on empirical data. These are very formal, academic expressions, but he uses them in daily conversations, even with his family.
Right, and that's actually a great habit for English learners. Instead of saying, usually, try statistically speaking. Instead of I think, try in my estimation. It upgrades your vocabulary and makes your speaking sound more thoughtful.
And let's talk about how Sheldon asks questions. He often avoids casual or vague language instead of asking what's going on. He might say, "Would someone care to explain this anomalous behavior?" Which is hilarious, but also a goldmine for vocabulary.
Yeah, and he once said, "I'm not crazy. My mother had me tested." That became one of his iconic lines. It's sarcastic, but also direct and structured.
And that line is actually full of meaning. The phrase "I'm not crazy" is blunt, but he softens it with "my mother had me tested," which adds logic to an emotional topic. It's a great example of how Sheldon always tries to rationalize everything.
Moving on to Mary again, when Sheldon starts going too far with scientific explanations, she sometimes says things like, "You're gonna give me a headache." That's a casual way to say, "Stop. It's too much to process."
Exactly. And then there's George Sr. His catchphrases are usually short, punchy, and very down to earth. Things like "let it go" or "it is what it is." These are common in American households and great for learners to remember.
And Mima, she uses expressions that are both old school and sassy. One of my favorites is, "Don't poke the bear," which means don't provoke someone who's already annoyed or dangerous.
Yes, and "you can't fix stupid," another one of her harsh but hilarious lines. These kinds of expressions show up in daily American speech, especially in informal or family contexts.
What makes young Sheldon so useful for English learners is that each character has a unique voice. Sheldon's speech is technical and precise. Mary's is emotional and southern. George's is casual and practical. Mima's is witty and idiomatic. Georgie's is youthful and slang-filled. So, you get a full spectrum of American English styles.
And if you're learning English, try writing down these expressions when you hear them. Then practice saying them in your own conversations. Maybe say them in front of a mirror or try using them in writing or journaling.
Absolutely. And don't just learn the phrase. Learn the context. "You're killing me" sounds funny when you're joking with a friend, but not so much in a serious setting. So, knowing when to use each phrase is key.
And here's an idea. Pause an episode of Young Sheldon when a new expression comes up. Write it down, repeat it, look it up. Ask, "What's the tone? Who said it? Why?" That's how you make vocabulary stick.
You know, a lot of viewers watch the show just for fun. But if you approach it like a classroom, it becomes a learning tool. One with humor, culture, and real language.
And if you're enjoying this kind of breakdown, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, English Podcast. We dive into shows, movies, and real-life conversations to help you master English in the most entertaining way.
Also, hit that like button if this episode is helping you understand more English expressions. And don't forget to comment below with your favorite phrase from Young Sheldon or one that confused you.
We're gonna keep going in just a moment. Next, we'll focus on some of the more advanced expressions used by adult Sheldon in his narrations and how you can use those in your writing.
Plus, we'll break down some of the scientific terms used in everyday speech, like hypothesis, and how to use them correctly without sounding like a robot.
All right, everyone, that brings us to the end of this deep dive into Young Sheldon and the powerful expressions it teaches us. We really hope this podcast helped you see how much real, useful English you can learn from a show if you listen closely and pay attention to context.
Exactly. Whether it's Sheldon's precise language, Mima's witty one-liners, or Mary's heartfelt Southern expressions. Each character brings something valuable to your English learning journey.
And don't forget, learning a language isn't just about grammar rules. It's also about culture, emotion, and personality. Shows like Young Sheldon are a great way to build that kind of deep understanding.
If you enjoyed this episode and want more content like this, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, English Podcast. We break down TV shows, movies, and daily conversations to help you learn naturally and confidently.
Also, leave us a comment with your favorite expression from this episode, or any show you want us to break down next. We love hearing from you.
And finally, don't forget, learning English is a journey. Some days you'll feel like Sheldon, full of big words and confidence. Other days, you'll feel confused like Georgie. But as long as you keep going, you're doing great.
Thanks for spending your time with us. Keep practicing, keep watching, and keep learning. We'll see you in the next episode of English Podcast. Until then,
Take care and happy learning.